Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today I'm looking at Dynasty sales, focusing on turning to 2025. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's go. So, Josh Jacobs. Now, I always get this when I put a good player in the sales video. I don't dislike Josh Jacobs. I'm not saying Josh Jacobs is bad. He's been a great player in 2024, especially for fantasy. But if you're looking toward 2025, I'm not sure Jacobs is an asset you really want to hang on to at his current value. Now, this year, a lot of volume, 239 carries, 1,053 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4.4 yards per carry, and 27 catches, 260 yards, and touchdown through the air. He's scoring touchdowns at a career best pace. He has not been involved in the passing game compared to previous seasons. That's not surprising because the Packers have more receiving weapons. I mean, they have so many, almost too many receiving weapons. So Josh Jacobs in the passing game has not been a super big part of their offense. He's not as efficient as he was in 2022. His carry volume is more similar to last year. So he's getting there on touchdowns, not extreme efficiency, not receptions, but touchdowns and pretty good volume. Now, why do I have Josh Jacobs as a sell looking to next year? I will say this. Other Packers running backs have barely gotten involved this year. That was not their plan. The Packers intended Marshawn Lloyd to be a part of the rotation, but he was hurt all year. We know that Matt LaFleur, after years of begging to see a full workload for Aaron Jones and never even once getting it, we know that Matt LaFleur prefers a rotated backfield. That's not going to change. But out of necessity, the Packers have had no choice but to lean on Jacobs because Chris Brooks is straight trash and Emmanuel Wilson is nothing special. So Jacobs has 1,544 career carries. That's a lot for a running back. We know the cliff is around 1,500 to 1,800 carries. Now, some might say, well, running backs are aging better now. They're not. They're not overall, but a few high-profile examples are going to make people think every running back is now going to be great into their later 20s and early 30s. Everyone will be good. Yes, there are some Alvin Kamaras and Joe Mixons, James Conner. There are some of those. For every one of those, there's an Ezekiel Elliott, a Dalvin Cook. Todd Gurley is obviously the worst example of them all. Someone who's 27 and finished. It just cannot be a guarantee, especially for someone. Jacobs is good, but he's not Christian McCaffrey. He's not elite level type talent. And then Christian McCaffrey fell off this year, but was good into older years. We cannot expect every running back to be good beyond the age and touch cliff. You can't. It's a 50-50 bet at best, leaning against. So, but people are going to say, well, they're all going to be good. I guarantee you that's going to be a narrative this offseason. They're all going to be good. All of them. Yes. Woo. Not a guarantee. There were also very few running back injuries this year. Last year, that was not at all the case. So, just careful. Be careful with that. Jacobs has few guarantees beyond 2025. Now, the Packers could cut him this offseason. I'm not expecting that. They're going to run it back for one more year in 2025. But if Jacobs isn't as good in 2025, they can easily move on. So he only has one more guaranteed year of value. Now, selling Josh Jacobs. If you're out of the playoffs, Josh Jacobs is a must-move. Must-move player for me. I saw many versions in Superflex of moving Josh Jacobs for 25 first. There were deals with an extra piece added to 25 first. I think you can push for that. I think at least an extra second or a player you like equivalent or better than a second. There's also this one, selling Josh Jacobs for Jalen Waddle on 27 second. I would absolutely do that. I'd rather have Jalen Waddle long-term. He's younger than Josh Jacobs and a wide receiver. I would easily rather have the Waddle side here. And then this one, sell Josh Jacobs for Jared Goff and Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, we'll see, but in Superflex, Jared Goff is worth a lot more than Josh Jacobs. This is just misvaluing a quarterback in Superflex. Now, next player, Xavier Legette. Now, normally you wouldn't expect to see a young wide receiver on this list for me. But one thing I will say, and one thing that I've adjusted in my process over the previous few years is, yes, I still recommend selling old players. That hasn't changed. But young players, I'm giving them less of a chance if they don't produce early. And then there's a difference between bad and really bad. And we'll get into why Xavier Legette is kind of in that bad to really bad range. In 13 games, 39 catches, 432 yards, 4 touchdowns, 67 targets, 3 catches, and 33.2 yards a game. It's not bad numbers, but it's not impressive. Considering the Panthers traded Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen was hurt for a lot of the year, I'm not impressed with what I've seen from Xavier Legette. And I've been talking about this on the Patreon a lot, about how I'm not a fan of what I've seen from Xavier Legette. Now, why? Why? There are so many reasons why I'm not into Xavier Legette. One is the lack of production. I mean, one game all year with more than 4 catches and 60 yards, and that was all the way back in week 4. He hasn't had more than 4 catches or more than 60 yards in any other game. So that's not good. 1.2 yards per route run, 79th among wide receivers. That's bad. Wide receivers who are this low typically don't develop. That is really bad. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable number from Xavier Legette. But you might say, well, he's not producing yards. Bryce Young's fault. Well, the target share is also not good, and that's independent of the quarterback play because that's the share of targets is not good. 16.4% target share. Considering the target competition, that's weak. 18.9% target rate. Weak. These are weak numbers. Not good enough. Legette was a terrible college prospect. Horrible. He did nothing in college until his senior year. In his first 4 years in college, he failed to top 200 yards in any of them. So he was a bad prospect. I didn't like him. But he got the draft capital, so I had to consider that he might be good, but we're just right back to the same problems that he had in college of not producing. Now, some might say the Panthers, well, Legette is the wide receiver 1 right now. There's no way he's going to be the wide receiver 1 to open the next season. The Panthers have cap space. I mean, after their cap casualties, the Panthers could have 50, 60, 70 million in cap space. If they're not going to replace the quarterback, they don't need to spend cap space or draft capital on that. So if they're going to stick with Bryce Young, they have plenty of money to add at least 1, if not 2, high-profile wide receivers. T. Higgins, Amari Cooper's a free agent. Those are some options. They could use their first rounder on a wide receiver like Tep McMillan. They could add players via trade. They have extra day 3 draft capital. They did a trade for Deontay Johnson last year. Didn't work out. Could they do another trade for a lower tier wide receiver to help bolster this room? Now, Bryce Young may be better than we thought. He hasn't been good. A lot of people are saying, well, he's been good. No, he hasn't actually been good. He's been not bad. But do we want secondary or tertiary fantasy assets in a Bryce Young offense? No, we don't. And that's what Xavier Legette is going to be. We've seen he can't be a wide receiver 1. He's nowhere near that. So, like I said, I mean, people still see Legette as a wide receiver 1 on the Panthers. That's not going to last. Saw this one. I mean, I'd much rather take my chances on Chris Olave coming back from a concussion than I would anything with who Chris Olave has been very productive in the NFL when he's played over Xavier Legette, who's been totally unproductive in the NFL when he's played. So I'd rather have Chris Olave here. Then there's this one, a second and a third. That's probably about right. I mean, to me, Legette has lost value, not gained it. So if I could just get out for about what I paid, I'd be happy to do that. And then this last one, I don't care that Juwan Jennings is older than Xavier Legette. Jennings, to me, has shown enough. He's going to have value next year. Legette, maybe, maybe not. So I would take this offer, especially since there's a pick coming with Jennings, which I think the pick should be on the other side, to get rid of Xavier Legette. If you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon right now. 50% discount at all tiers using the code TylerYT. You get rankings, access to the Discord, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos. Tiers begin normally at $6 a month, but using that code, they begin at $3 a month and include all of that. If you want to know more about Patreon, check out my Why You Should Join the Patreon videos on the channel. They describe everything that I'm offering. And, you know, I'm doing more and more content on the Patreon. I probably will be reducing significantly the YouTube content during the offseason. I just, you know, there's a lot of stuff I want to do that's not going to work in the YouTube algorithm. I tried it last year. It didn't work. So I'll be doing that for patrons only. Less viewers, but maybe it'll convince more people to join the Patreon. So I'm hoping that works out. But if not, continue to enjoy the YouTube content for as long as it lasts. But with that said, we'll move into my next sell. So my next sell, Chase Brown. Now, Brown has been a fantasy league winner down the stretch, but these day 3 running backs who jump into starting jobs are very concerning, especially when they're 5th round or later. I notice 4th rounders have a much better track record of success. So before I get into Brown's 2024 stats, let's play a little game here. So let's take a look at running back A. Running back A, 14 games, 147 carries, 639 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4.3 yards a carry, 36 catches, 325 yards. So pretty good running back, right? I mean, solid success there. Then running back B, 166 carries, 735 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4.4 yards a carry, 44 catches, 302 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And then what about running back C? Here's running back C. 210 carries, 1,035 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4.9 yards a carry, 16 catches for 139 yards and touchdowns. So you might say running back C was more efficient on the ground, but wasn't involved as much in the air. Running back A was efficient on the receptions he had, but didn't score as many touchdowns. And running back B kind of did a little bit of everything. So what might you guess about all these running backs? Of course, they're all day 3 running backs. So running back A, this well-rounded running back, this is Michael Carter's 2021 season before he was replaced by Breece Hall. Running back B, that's Chase Brown from this year. And running back C, this hyper-efficient on-the-ground running back, that's Tyler Allgeier's 2022 season before he was replaced by Bijan Robinson. So I hope it shows that Chase Brown is not wildly better than the 2 running backs that were replaced by elite workhorses in the NFL draft. Now, moving into why I see Chase Brown as a dynasty sell, obviously that exercise I hope exemplified it, but let's take a look at some splits. So Brown with Moss, 78 carries, 359 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4.6 yards a carry, and 16 catches, 61 yards and touchdown. He averaged 9.8 carries and 2 catches per game. Nothing special. He was efficient, but not a monster. A good change of pace back. Last 5 games, I mean, he's been a workhorse. 88 carries, 376 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.3 yards a carry, and 28 catches, 241 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Big thing is passing game work. Do we really think Brown is going to average 5.6 catches a game ever again? 17.6 carries a game? I mean, that's over 23 touches a game. I highly doubt it. The efficiency on the touches, fine, but nothing special either on the ground or through the air. It's all coming from volume, which is coming because the Bengals don't trust Khalil Herbert or any of their other backups. Now, the Bengals are going to cut Zach Moss in 2025, leave an opening at the RB2 spot. And I have seen multiple NFL mock drafts that had the Bengals selecting Ashton Jeanty in the 1st round. Now, you're going to tell me, well, that's very unlikely. Oh, I don't know. That's impossible. I got to tell you, no one thought that the Falcons would take Bijan Robinson 8th overall, who I think Genty's a better prospect than Bijan Robinson, after Tyler Allgeier's rookie year. I myself dismissed that as a possibility. No one thought the Lions would take Jahmyr Gibbs 12th overall after signing David Montgomery to a contract and taking DeAndre Swift in the 2nd round a few years before that. I myself dismissed that possibility. I dismissed those possibilities and they happened anyway. So at the very least, the Bengals will address the running back position because it's not sustainable to have one running back take all the touches all year. We know that doesn't work for 95% of running backs. That doesn't work, especially over time. So to sell Chase Brown, again, I think people are valuing Chase Brown as if the role from the last 5 games is permanent. Let me make something clear. There is only one Ashton Jeanty who would eliminate the value of Chase Brown, but in no scenario will Brown's intended role in 2025 be the role he had in 2024. I don't think that's possible. So could you sell Brown for a 25 first? I think I'd do that in a super flex. I'd just not take my chances. First, don't get hurt. Could I sell Chase Brown for James Cook? Yeah, I would. Both players are within a few months in age. Cook, to me, far more guaranteed his job than Brown. And then this last one, you sell Chase Brown for Brandon Ayuk and a 25-second. I'd much rather have Ayuk in the pick here, especially heading into an offseason. Ayuk has this long-term deal, so he's not going to lose a particular much value considering how much money he's guaranteed. Now, I have a special segment for you guys. Get rid of dynasty trade deadlines. I think this makes fantasy more fun, right? I mean, we love year-round activity, and the noise, I hear a lot. Well, if you allow trades in the fantasy playoffs, leagues will be ruined. Well, I have not found that. I have not found that. I have not seen that ever. Never in a league that I've played have I seen a league ruined by that. Bad league mates ruin leagues, not year-round activity. So for my sake, because I would love to make year-round buy-sell content, I would love it if more Dynasty leagues had no trade deadline. That's what I recommend, my preferred format. I don't think I would ever join a new Dynasty league that had a trade deadline. I think that would be a deal breaker for me. I don't want trading to be turned off. I want to be able to make moves all year. So for me, like I said, that would be a deal breaker. I would not join a league that had a trade deadline of any kind. So why wouldn't you want to have year-round activity? Just my take on that, because I do hear that a lot these days. And lastly, I've got a Patreon question. It's kind of interesting in the context of this video. Who are you viewing as the best handful of running back buys this offseason at cost? I know a lot can change between now and May, though. So in general, nothing good can happen to a running back between January and May. Only bad things. There could be added competition through free agency, added competition through the draft. There are very, very few running backs I would recommend buying, if any, during that period of time. I'd rather pay the higher cost, slightly higher. I don't think the cost goes up that much once I know the depth chart. I think there is one time to buy running backs. Really, there are two ways I like acquiring running backs. Number one is just drafting them in the rookie draft. That's my number one way to acquire running backs. Number one. Number two is right after the rookie draft, when you are doing your rookie draft, during rookie drafts, when rookie fever is kicking in. Number one, lowers the price of veteran running backs. Number two, the price of rookie picks are very high. And number three, it's usually in May, so it's before people are looking at their fantasy lineups and not thinking about it. That is when you can get the best deals on veteran running backs, because you know the depth chart free agency is passed, NFL draft is passed. You know what you're buying, and your picks, where if you follow my strategy, you should have a lot of them. You can take advantage of that particular window. Once it's in season, it's usually too late. So draft them in rookie drafts or sell your rookie picks for veteran running backs are my ways to buy running backs, not all the other ways that people suggest. Now, if you like the video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. As always, the best way to support the channel is to subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on the Patreon. Dynasty, starts it, redraft, and more. Got a 50% discount at all tiers using the code TylerYT, and you can sign up right there. Click that link, patreon.com/fantasyadvice, to get to the Patreon. Every sign up helps support my independent content. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.